the meeting of the Eastham Residential, or the Eastham Zoning Task Force. We are no longer just residential. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We will, I think we'll begin.
I noticed that when,
One of these, Michelle.
Michelle opened the meeting yesterday, she read a much longer script. Is that because it was a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just,
And that was that piece was, because we both took note of it, was the part that she said, you know, this is a, that if the
Zoom goes
Zoom
down.
goes down.
We continue the meeting.
Continue the meeting. Yeah, we never said that.
We never say that. Maybe we should think about,
Well, good thing we did, because Zoom did go down.
I know.
Yeah. Who made this?
I think
Yeah,
Carolyn.
I think, yeah.
Sorry, Carolyn, my girlfriend just dropped off Irish bread, which I had 2 pieces this morning.
Yeah.
I have to
I
skip,
probably have love to have banana bread, but
I have to skip.
grandkids and.
Okay.
And kudos to, Paul and Jackie, I think you did and Mary, of course, did a fine job in going through some
Yeah.
very complicated material.
Yes.
Is there more to go through? I don't know how much you got through the select board, and maybe that's part of what you'll talk about today. But I was just thinking last night, if it would be of help, I could put a little chart together to show the sawtooth and the new limits. I mean, you did an amazing job in talking through that, but get to the select board and they don't necessarily like to sit and listen to a long discussion. I don't know if you have got through that already, or if that's still to be
No.
got through.
They seem to do okay.
They were okay?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, how are we organizing this meeting?
All right, why don't we do minutes, and then we're gonna do a debrief. And then we have, do we have a memo regarding Carolyn Murray? Or,
No, so what I wanted to do was, we can debrief from yesterday, but I just wanted to walk through
oh, yes,
the documents. There's not really any substantive changes, but there's some tweaks, so I just highlighted some things I want to bring to the attention of everybody. And then we can decide if there's any other changes.
okay.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about our final recommendations to the select board, which is, we thought was gonna be the 30th, but have you confirmed it's the 23rd? It's Monday. It's Monday. So, okay. Pat circulated minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve? So move, Kevin. Second, Martin.
second that.
All in favor? Aye. Great. Okay. Let's debrief from, how would you like to do this? Would you like to start? We can go around the room with our impressions, or?
I mean, I don't really have anything to add.
Oh, I know Pat had some observations, so why don't we start with Pat? We'll go around the room and everyone can kind of,
Okay,
sorry, in the middle of your writing.
that's all right. So I thought that the FAR discussion was really complicated, and I know it, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot for people to absorb. So this morning, I went back and I reread the summary of the task force recommendations. And that to me seems just really clear. And I'm wondering if maybe this is one of these less is more things where when maybe, because we'll be doing a pre-town meeting thing, that maybe we begin with sort of why the changes and how this FAR calculation is just more simple and straightforward for people. I just thought, and maybe it was the time, maybe it was the phase of the moon, but I just thought that part was tougher for people to follow. And the rest of it I thought was fine. I thought the inclusionary zoning was succinct and just would make sense to people who were hearing it for maybe the first or second time. That's great. Yeah. Carolyn?
I would agree, it is complicated, and each of the different topics, some more than others, obviously. But each one is a little bit complicated. Paul, when we do the warrant, will each section be its own warrant article? Or is it winner take all? All or
Each,
nothing?
each topic will be its own one.
Okay.
And I was gonna bring this up, but it's a good time. I think it would be good to separate the prohibited uses article into three. Because,
Three different.
Yeah.
because that way,
Mhm.
That's what we're saying, resistance.
Yeah,
so then the whole thing. It gets complicated, if people wanna break it apart just on town meeting floor, but also it has the. The whole thing could go down in flames rather than just, so I was gonna.
Yeah.
Simply break that up, so there'll be there'll be two extra articles, but.
Okay.
And actually, Rich suggested that too, because
I think it's a good idea. The other thing that it struck me in listening to the discussion, both the select board and yesterday at the planning board, is that as it relates to fences and containers, which are the two touchstone items, that because there are parts and parcels of it that are in different sections, setbacks, prohibited uses, I forget, okay, that it might be good for us, meaning probably Paul and Jackie, to think about a summary thing just about, in words, English, about fences. And maybe this is what's allowed, this is what's we're proposing to be prohibited. This is what the setbacks are, this is what the landscaping requirements are, this is what the permitting is, all sort of on one page. Because it's hard to go for the lay reader, for lack of a better word, to go back and forth between different ones and thinking through the what if. So what if I want to put up, a 4-foot fence? What do I have to do? If I want to put up a 6-foot fence, if I want to put up an 8-foot fence, what do I have to do? I think just putting it in a way that makes user sense, the same with the containers. Because if they're prohibited, they're one thing, if they're not prohibited, they're another thing. If they're a trailer, they're one thing, if they're related to a business use, they're a different thing. A way to put that in some kind of either table or verbiage that brings all of it together, like they were talking about, what happens if Kevin's question about if someone retires. Now, that's kind of a unusual question. What I was gonna say to that, Kevin, is nobody on the Cape really retires. If you're.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, me too. If you're in the service business particularly, you don't ever really retire, you just stop having one. Anyway, there might be a way to just consolidate about each of those three topics.
Can I ask, are you envisioning that as something for the next round of the select board? Or
Yes.
you're thinking more about pre-town meeting
Well-
for the public to better understand?
I was thinking about it for the select board on Monday, but also as a potential pre-town meeting handout.
Mhm.
The other thing that had occurred to me so that's just a suggestion, because I noticed at least one of the select board members was trying to go back and forth and they weren't actually getting the details right. Because they were,
They had two different copies of the warrant.
yeah.
So that was one of the things, so.
The other thing is, I think, and again, this may be for the select board, I don't know about beyond that. What we give them is the red line version with the deletions and additions all in. We're deleting a whole bunches of stuff. Moving definitions around and putting things into, et cetera, and we're adding stuff. I would think it would also be helpful to give them the red line version and a clean black line version. This is what it's really gonna look like, because they were getting, I think they were misreading some of it, because some struck out, but when you're reading it, it's hard to tell. So I don't know if that would be a helpful handout for the select board, would be, and actually, this is what the final copy is gonna look like. They're probably more concerned with that than they are about.
We actually go with the striked out version to town meeting.
I know,
Yeah,
and the striked out version is very hard to read.
no, I know.
So as a test for
Yeah.
the select board, would it be helpful to give them one that's not struck out? That's the black real, to black and the new one. And as a companion piece and see how they react to that. That might clear up some of the confusion that I think was happening.
There was only one person Jamie was misreading it and Amy corrected her. She didn't realize that strikeout was not language and unstruck out was new language.
I know.
Yeah.
But it might make for anything we can do to help with clarity, I think is important.
Okay.
I don't know what
Alright.
the expectation is on Monday.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that the select board does not want to go through the
Whole
whole
thing.
thing, so
No.
it's probably going to be. They're just probably gonna dive in and go through. The review and then really just
Yeah.
dwell on the fences and containers
Yeah,
and decide, but,
And trailers.
right, but. I gotta send all this stuff. Right after this meeting, any
Yeah.
changes we decide on, but if we can pull together maybe a summary, like a one-page summary, I think
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
those ideas are good.
And it may not make it in time for town meeting, but
Right,
I mean, for
But I think it's-
Monday, but
that those are helpful ideas.
just to, anything we can do to create clarity in their mind about what we're trying to do. I think is helpful, because I don't think Jamie was the only one that was confused. I think some of the others were. They weren't, just reading body language, they weren't expressing it the way she was, but I think they were having
Yeah.
some of the same problems.
Okay. Kevin's gonna leave at 11, so I'm gonna kind of move us on. Can we just kind of go
Yeah.
through this quickly? Tom?
You
Yeah.
want,
No, go ahead.
so I like your idea. My only concern there would be to make sure that they understood what is not changing, so they don't start attacking stuff they didn't realize was already in there, because you hear that every now and then too.
Right.
I was
But in
asking,
response to that. They're asking us to look at that whole topic of the. That particular part of the zoning. And so from their, I would think from their perspective, if we said that, well, it was already there. They would say, but you should have looked at it.
hmm,
You see, so, I mean, I can understand that point of view. I'm not necessarily agreeing with that, but I can see
Yeah.
where they make sense.
so one area was in the containers, the shipping containers, and I think we have to make. If we agree, I think from what we've been talking about, make a distinction between casually used containers that are just thrown on the ground and therefore exposed to a lot of the issues that you see in that environmental hazards area where, the floors are treated for marine use and they will leach into the ground, as opposed to if you put them on a foundation and properly, isolate them from the ground and properly maintain them. Obviously, that's not happening, right? In the casual use of these things. And I think in the casual side, you don't want that to be happening, and you don't want Eastham to turn into CubeSmart, on every street. People just throwing stuff into containers and forgetting about it. Tradespeople aren't doing that; they're using it and they're maintaining it. So there is a distinction there, I think. The other thing I was mentioning is if you thought you had to go through the issue on the FAR again, and if you don't, that's great. I could certainly help with a chart that showed, the breakpoints, and the differences between the old and the new, because that's a hard one to talk through, and I think you did an amazing job talking through that.
Yeah,
Jackie.
thanks.
If you had to go through that again, would that be of help? And if
I-
you don't have to, that's fine.
Only if you have an hour directly following this meeting, otherwise I'll need to do it. Which is okay, so I appreciate the feedback and I can quickly generate that to include with the select board package, but if we want that for the select board to make sure they're clear.
That's the question,
It's gonna
yeah.
be a today
That's a today thing.
before lunch thing.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
Can we just keep going? Cause I'm,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
then when it comes to the public, again, when we then push to the April, I think we have more time and
Yeah,
creativity to be
yeah,
sure that
yeah.
if there's points of confusion for the public.
There's a tricky chart to
Yeah.
create to make it simple. I
Yeah.
could
I've got
get a track. Oh, you have one?
Yeah,
Okay.
just go.
I would say if we would welcome it, just to have,
Yeah, not for the.
if and when we can use it, it's good to have. So we won't be able to put it in the packet, but. Anytime between now and town meeting or whenever, I think it's good information to have. And we can use it later on too, when we're trying to still explain the changes, even if it does get approved. So I thank you.
Okay.
Kevin?
Yeah,
you
no,
thought-
first of all, I thought the meeting went very well yesterday, actually. Those on this and the presenters. There just didn't seem to be any major pushback, or anything. Obviously, the containers came up as an issue, and there was questions of fencing. But as to the FAR, yes, it's very complicated. I wasn't sure how to read planning board, whether we deal with this stuff regularly, so maybe it's like, yeah, this sounds good to us, or they were so totally lost, they were embarrassed to say. I don't think it was the latter. I think they understood it pretty well. I can't speak to the select board as to whether they'd have the same sense of that. But it's probably helpful in terms of explaining some of that. One example, I think you were doing that anyway, but just showing how under the current zoning, this is where you could get, and you have a disparity between someone with, two neighbors with different size lots, one getting more of a house on a smaller lot type of thing. Just to drive that point home. I don't think you can do much improvement of what you had done, but I think that's just the appropriate way to go with it. As far as the container thing goes, I think this is going to be helpful to bring out some of the issues in terms of contamination. I was just surprised that there was pushback on that. And again, may have been the individual involved. I don't know. But generally, I thought the whole thing went pretty well, and there wasn't much negative comments. And I agree with you, Paul, on splitting up things with each vote, especially on restricted
Prohibited
use.
use, yeah. What?
Yeah, to reiterate, a lot of things that were already said, a lot of great work. I do think that when we talk about the FAR, that we could have used a graphical representation of what Jackie was describing, because it is easy to get lost. So I think have a quick graph to say that, putting in the FAR creates things that are very fair. But what we didn't, the point that we missed was that in an effort to be equitable, or to try to give more development space for the smaller lots, we added all those brackets. So we created, so by the idea of saying FAR is fair, everybody sees that's fair. We wanted to make it more fair by adding the breaks, but then unfortunately that gave us the sawtooth, and now we flattened it out. I think if you just had that one graph with 3 lines on it, even if they're not, like, that's not the chart you use to build your house. Oh, here I am on the curve, but just as a representation to say, we've made this fair. And then people can look at it and say, oh, okay, I understand. This is why we changed. This is the problem it creates. This is how we fixed it. I'm good with that.
I think that's good.
As opposed to, so that was that point, and we were creating a graphic for that. As far as the storage containers, I thought the safety issue was another topic that I brought it up quickly, but the idea that these are being put into a residential neighborhood, they're not built to any building standards, so the building inspector can't say, oh, is there a second exit to it? Is there, how do you keep kids from locking each other in them? With kids, dying, and there's cases of that happening across the country. So I think that's another aspect we didn't talk about. And it's very disappointing that we're regulating what trees can get cut down, how close you can clear cut to the sideline of your house. No, we don't tell people what color to paint their house, but the idea that we're going to allow people to store one or more of these storage containers right on their lot line, shadowing my house or anybody else's house, is just not defensible. And we're trying to be proactive. There's only a half a dozen or a dozen of them in town. Where do we think we're going to be 20 years from now? And I know I'm going to start referring to them as the Dimitri Ackman storage container, because I think that they're pushing back on them because there's a feeling that they're affordable. I thought that's a good point about them being recyclable. We'll let them get recycled. Letting them rust on your front lawn is not recyclable. So I just think I want to push back hard on them. I'll be there Monday. I'll push back hard, and I think that everything we're doing is for a purpose to try to maintain the look and feel of the town, and allowing these to proliferate is not something any of us would be proud of 5 or 10 years from now. Because now that it's becoming popular, it'll become more popular.
Do you two want to offer observations, or because I know I agree with many of the things that were said. I think we'll go to Monday night's meeting, because I don't think we're going to go through the whole thing. It's going to be more of a selective summary. The one observation I would make in your presentation was, you got to it, but I almost was like, oh, we should have led with this. People trying to understand the sawtooth, and maybe you could do it through the graphic. But when you finally said, oh, look at the top range of the one tier. It has to be the bottom range of the next tier. That like
That's what.
Yeah.
clicked with everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Another graphic in mind that
Yeah.
is literally a house with floors and ceilings with the bands.
well, it almost, I don't even know if you have to overcomplicate it. It literally was, what's the sawtooth? Well, it was before you could have, one person could actually get more space than the
Yeah.
person below them. But when you make it even, it almost didn't need a lot of explanation. When you got to that, that was it.
I wasn't at the previous select board meeting. Did that come up
No,
before?
they didn't touch development limits at all. So, all right,
I think that can be the FAR one can be broken down into three broad things. It's standardizing the terms for what they really are. It's like solving for the sawtooth, which can be the graphic, and it's simplifying the regulatory process by eliminating that tier. And I think that in a summary of short words and some graphics can
Yep.
actually just,
that would be good.
Select board isn't going to revisit that, then there's no need to bring it up
Yeah.
again, right?
it's good to
They're
have these
actually-
things. I mean, I think it's useful. If we have time, I think we should develop it.
Okay. Well, why don't we at this point, and we could probably do two things. Carolyn has gone through every one of the zoning warrants and she has made comments and Jackie and Paul have had us sit down with her to understand some things. She was misunderstanding, some things got raised. So we could go through those warrants and just look at the comments. And then if there are any other sort of policy related questions, we can just discuss them as the particular warrant is up on the screen. Does that work for you, Paul?
Yes.
Because I know we gotta work through all of these, and I'd love to get through the comments before Kevin had to leave. That'd be great.
All right, so I guess I'll just start with the FAR. There wasn't any suggestions for changes in that one. But the one thing that came up yesterday from the architect that spoke was the idea of having a date inserted into the bylaw, an effective date for that. Which would basically alleviate the in-between confusion of which standard is applicable. What happens if it doesn't pass? So I guess that's just a question to everyone.
Is there a downside to putting them? Say this takes effect at some dates in the future.
The downside, I get it's,
You don't know how town meeting's gonna vote one way or the other, no matter.
I guess it's just,
Yeah,
I would say, if you're gonna do it, you say it would be effective as of,
January 1 or something.
well, no, you don't have to do that. It could be the
Town
day
meeting.
after town meeting. It's just, so between now and then, someone who's submitting an application or working on a project knows that
Right.
it's just basically anything that actually gets submitted between now and town meeting would be under the current rules. Anything after, so if that architect knows, we're gonna rush this in, because this is, well, I'm gonna just
Yeah.
wait.
Quite honestly, I was surprised that he saw that as an issue, because when architects are doing their job, they know that's how it works. And if they're doing their job. they're gonna check
It's not just it. I
beforehand.
mean, we have calls from lawyers who are, midway through their packets for the planning board or for zoning board, and we've got homeowners saying, but I just I've spent 2 years designing to this standard and now it came up last spring too. I mean,
Yeah, no, I think he's had a valid point that, in one case, if I design to the maximum size right now. And, to the current law that's in place. That won't be, illegal. If I get approved.
no, that would be legal, it'd be smaller.
No, there's cases where he could have been bigger. On the small lots.
I think what's helpful is just for them to know as soon as possible. So that they can make decisions about whether or not they're submitting their applications now or waiting until
Yeah.
May 10th. Or whenever.
I think
It's just,
it would be fine. I think it'd be great now. Right now is he expected to bring those in soon. That's how they'd be reviewed, and the world's on notice
I mean,
after the vote.
You could have some really egregious projects that if
sneaking in. under the
sneaking in under the wire, people could throw
But-
stuff in.
But it's not sneaking in.
Honestly, it takes so long and we're already past the filing deadline for April. Someone would have to be getting in for, they couldn't. They'd be getting in for a filing deadline for the May planning board that happens after town meeting.
But we shouldn't refer to it disparagingly as sneaking in. Those are the current rules that the town has put in place right now. So somebody who bought $2.5 million lot, they want to develop a house with today's current rules. They are in a predicament where today's current rules, even though I applied, I've done everything, and if these new rules get applied and get approved, then all that's gone up.
And I mean, there isn't time in that someone who is starting right now,
All right, no,
not have
I
time
agree
to
with you.
design a 4,500 square foot house and get it into planning in time to sort of beat the clock. Versus these folks who are already, you know, like planning on filing this week. They're already there.
Well, you said you had no filings for April, and when was the deadline to file for April
15, or excuse me, the 17th,
of March?
for the 15th of April.
So this is kind of academic issue, because no one can get in for April and May will be afterward.
If
No,
they've
no.
submitted their application before the effective date, then the board would be instructed to consider their application under the rules in existing at the time of their application.
Right. So the example last night is for a small lot, I can go up to 20% with today's rules, and that's gonna get lowered to 15%. So if I designed a house to 20%, and I'm in the process right now, and like the lawyer was like the architect was there last night. And then this gets approved in April, or town meeting in May rather, then now I'm restricted to 15%. So I followed all the rules from the time I bought the house to the time I developed everything, and now my house is 20.
No, I
Big.
I
So
get,
I think removing that,
but did you
Just-
hear what he said about that, which I wanted
in
to
that
ask?
particular case, he was correct.
In that
because he
particular,
had pre-existing
case,
non-existing.
because he had pre-existing he's actually gonna get more space under the
Yeah.
new rules.
For that particular case, I'm talking
Yeah.
about,
In general,
and just good policy. It's good policy, not to make people spend money going down a pathway. That we all know could be a dead end.
I think there
I think-
are 3 properties that I'm aware of right now that are finishing their filings to get them in for the next round. Who are in this quagmire of, if we say that the effective date was the date of the legal posting, then the work that they've done, they're gonna have to go back and redo.
are any of these projects
say
going to,
If we
you
say
know,
that it's town
Yeah.
meeting, then they would be able to submit and submit as is.
so
Doesn't mean that they're approved.
based on your analysis, only 14% of the projects that came through the pipeline in 2025 would have bumped up into something with the new rules. And of those projects, it's really the smaller lots with the 20% that give more of a mass that have sparked a lot of contention. Are any of these 3 projects going to be contentious? They're not contentious. Okay,
There's one that a homeowner is ready to submit. Who, under the new rules, he would lose about 400 square feet on his design. So that, you know, that's one that comes to mind on a
Okay.
house that's in the 30,000 square foot band. He would have to go back and redesign. So like, there's an example. of
no, I understand that, yeah.
He'd have to go back and redesign. Peter Haig may say, well, if I'm gonna get more under the new rules, then we'll wait and we'll submit our filing.
Well, that's
May.
always acceptable, right?
You know,
right.
that's fine.
No problem with that.
And Ben Zender's latest one, who knows?
Okay, all right. Well,
It's not small.
it's, you know, I thought you were gonna put Carolyn's comments up there.
There wasn't anything on that.
Oh, on that one. All right, so
The question is just,
do we, so the
Publish
question
an
before
effective
the committee, why don't we just try to get some things, do we feel like, I think there's a concept that should we put a date, and should the date be May 5th, the day after the town meeting,
For everything, or just for,
Just for this.
just for FAR?
The other ones have effective date that's retroactive to.
right,
Yes.
so I think when it comes to things like fencing
Yeah.
and signs and stuff
Yeah.
like that, where people would rush to try to take advantage of it, but. I'd be in favor of having a clean cut on the south, not having this gray area in the middle.
Clean cut meaning May.
May
Day
5th,
after, yeah, I agree.
people?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, effective date. of, May 5th. Okay. All right,
I'll just go through these. So on setbacks, actually, there wasn't any. The only thing on this, on the chart for setbacks was the suggestion that we add a definition for site triangle. Which I think makes sense, and we can do that and, we'll just insert it as a footnote in the. And that was the only thing on that.
mhm.
On the campers and trailers, my suggestion is that we insert the word vehicle. To distinguish vehicle trailers from the containers. I'll just jump ahead that on the container one. I'm gonna suggest that we get rid of the trailers so that they're just storage containers. It's just. So,
Want to refer to them as metal storage containers? More specific.
Until they change materials.
I guess that's just the pods are made of, what are the pods? They're made of plastic or something. Right?
I think. That's an issue of how we're defining it.
Yeah, let's not contend, yeah, somebody else will say, oh, you'll up with that. You just see a white panel, you see the storage container.
And then this change, so this. This second part talks about, we're allowing these, the storage of these vehicles by right, no permit needed unless. You have an issue meeting the setbacks. In which case, we put all this language, this directs someone to go to the zoning board. The change is that. It's a little confusing because. We're sending folks to the zoning board, but all of the regulatory stuff is actually embedded in the planning board. So the suggestion was that we. Change this, we insert this language, the same language, just put it into section 4.4 instead of section. 7, because 4.4 is the non-conforming, and that's really the section that deals with the zoning board. And if we do that, so just, I think it makes sense, it gives it more logical home in the bylaw. If we do that, then we don't need all of the language at the bottom, because that's talking about the process. And the language will already be in there because it's already in 4.4, and that's where we talk about the process, and that's where the zoning boards review criteria about characteristics and all that, which is basically the same as the planning board, so it'll let us
That's simple.
simplify it. So it's not really changing language, it's putting it in a different spot.
Does that line about setbacks will not pertain to boats, is that new line or is that existing?
That was in there.
yeah, we've had
Oh,
that all
existing,
along.
okay.
Under zoning admin. Talked through this with Carolyn Murray, the way that we had it worded, it's still. Presented I guess the option that multiple people could be assigned this role, and it would still leave the possibility that folks could just go shopping for the right answer among staff, and I think that could be confusing. So. I'm recommending that we just. Designate the town planner as the zoning administrator, and. It just. Put some clarity on it, and then basically all the things that we're enumerating below, which are all of the unnamed designees. Which is me, the town planner anyways, it just kind of clarifies it. It doesn't actually, and then talking to Stu, the day-to-day reality is. I can still delegate things to other staff to do it, it still has to, but it's under my signature. So it kind of. it's a workaround, so it is an improvement over what we have, it's just not as. So I think that was the only thing on that. I can't remember if we got, so I added number 4, which if the trailer thing passes. It would enable the zoning administrator to handle those issues for. If it comes up for setback issues. And. On fines, we don't need this anymore. This was left over from the earlier version where had the zoning enforcement. It was really just all, so. We're not changing any of that section of that thing as is, so I can delete that. And all we were doing was adding a header to it, so. Prohibited uses, so the storage containers, like I said, I was suggesting we just strike trailers, just refer to them as the storage containers. Someone came up with Carolyn, to break up the first line into 1 and 2. And add for other purposes. The example that Carolyn brought up was. Right now, the building commissioner could issue a permit for temporary storage related to something with a building permit. But you could have a lot of different things going on in the building permit. Someone's refinishing the floors in their house, they gotta move other stuff. One of these might be in the driveway for a few weeks or whatever. Again, it always comes down to enforcement. People are gonna do this. Where they come for a permit, but at least we have a mechanism to deal with it, so.
Good idea.
So that's just breaking that up.
Can you remind us of the definition of storage container? Says it's defined in the bylaw. I should have.
Yeah, I can go to that.
Or if it's in definitions, when you get to that,
Well,
we'll deal with
that
that.
was the only change, so I can just go to definition.
I think it reads something like a hulking, rustic, dangerous, limited.
For Amy, we have a new solution, which is if it bugs you, look the other way. She said last night in public, so
And Jamie,
reply to all of us zoning.
Jamie's point seemed to be, I think, one of cost. That.
Yeah.
And I looked up the cost of a storage trailer delivered to my house in Eastham. And buying a metal shed from Home Depot. And the shed's cheaper.
Yeah, I was just looking that up. So the storage containers, if you buy one, is around $2,000 delivered. But you can get one from Home Depot that's waterproof for around $500 to $1,000.
Yeah.
Are they containers or sheds?
They're sheds.
Sheds, okay, so that's a,
Capacity thing, containers.
For equal capacity.
I was looking for like a 10 by 10 shed, so 100 square feet plus.
I looked at 10 by 20, which would be equivalent to a 20-foot container,
Okay,
and it's still cheaper to buy the shed.
yeah,
Well, this is
so.
how we're defining it.
So what does portable mean in the zoning legal definition?
Well,
If Home Depot delivered a prefab shed and dropped it on my property.
So this is trying to get at the issue of, they're not actually buildings. They're not on a foundation. This is where it gets tricky because as we talked to the building commissioner, they could be considered structures.
If they were built
We
with
had to
foundation.
deal with them some way.
Yeah,
They're here. But these are things that started out as containers that are portable. They're on a ship, they're on the back of a truck, so forth. They're not on a foundation.
and they're designed for that.
Which would be different, a metal container, which is clearly you bought it, it's a shed, it's made out of metal or some other structure that's metal. Which is meant to be installed on the ground and stay where
Okay,
it is.
yeah,
So
very
that's,
good.
I guess that would be to differentiate between. So, so these are things that basically had some other life. And now they're being put on the ground and used for storage.
it kind of cuts a couple ways though, because I think. I thought Martin's points last night, he was differentiating two things. One is. we're talking about residential neighborhoods, so there's that. And then there's also, this is a piece of industrial equipment that was built for a purpose. And certainly moving storage and construction storage is a temporary purpose. But this is equipment that is intended as a permanent. It's gonna be a permanent piece of equipment, so how do you?
Yeah, another
We can
example,
easily claim that it's not.
let's say I was able to
Just
get
there forever.
a giant section of oil pipeline that's 10 feet tall. It's just a 20-foot section of pipeline. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put that in my backyard and I'm gonna, use that as my storage container. And you'd be like, that's a piece of industrial pipeline equipment. What is that doing in your backyard? That's not a shed. Oh, no, I like to use it as a shed. That's what. So there is no end to it. Somebody could get a hulking carcass of an old airplane and say, oh, I've got this airplane. I'm gonna get it delivered to my backyard and use it as a shed. There is no end to the future of what this industrial equipment could be.
Yeah,
So I think that's the strongest track to
Yeah.
take, is that there are no building codes for these things, and
okay. Well, all right, are we okay with the definition, the changes here?
I don't see the word story, a shipping container, which is sort of what we're targeting. Would we want to fit the word shipping in there somewhere?
But some of these could be claimed they're not shipping, but they're, I guess portable is shipping, right?
Not if they were only used on a railroad car.
Right,
Oh,
well,
Shipping, is that shipping? Is it over there?
Going back to the
Yeah.
trailer.
It's,
how do you define shipping?
we're gonna keep coming back to, you cannot possibly design for absolutely
Yeah.
every workaround, loophole, semantic.
Right, well,
Change.
and the idea
That's
that there was a wooden shed that Home Depot delivered to your house doesn't define it as portable.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure that was not.
Like a
yeah.
mobile, like a prefab house isn't a portable house. It was fabbed up in Vermont and moved down here.
It seems like the word portable is easier to defend than shipping, because one could say, yeah, shipping is a
So
commercial,
to your point,
I thought it-
commercial thing, and I never shipped in this,
yeah,
right, but
but it's
well,
portable.
we're saying portable in the definition. I
Yeah.
think if you name it portable storage, then you start to pigeonhole it. Whereas
Right, yeah, has been or may be.
portable
yeah,
within,
maybe,
if you
yeah,
call it that portable, then I think people can,
Yeah.
To visualize what it is.
Yeah.
right, whereas the way it's worded now, it's open to broader interpretation where you can.
Right. Because we do agree that the shipping containers are, what we're targeting, but somebody else could start, like when you look at the pods, those seem to be primarily made of wood and plastic.
Yeah,
Um,
but they're certainly portable, because you move them from house to house.
right, and if someone said, you know what, the pod is cheaper than renting a thing, I'm gonna put 3 pods in my backyard. And after 6 months, we'd be like, okay, how's your project going? Oh, no, those are just, I pay $100 a month for those, it's cheaper than renting a
Yeah.
locker up the street.
Well,
So,
that's a good point. So the ones that are commercial, like pods, that you rent and you pay monthly rent for, as opposed to one that somebody buys for $1,200 and has to live in the backyard.
yeah,
Are
can't,
we saying the pods can't be there either, the commercial?
Not permanently.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
yeah, not permanent, the notion is not permanent. So have we dealt with the issue of non-permanent in this?
Well, one of those pods. I mean, it goes back to whether it's a pod that. That you rent or one of these repurposed ones. They're meant to be
Temporary.
portable.
Meant for shipping, as shipping materials.
I agree.
Okay. So. Are we,
And if, well, look, so just to address the what if that could come one day, what if someone says, I'm going to create a foundation, I'm going to request for zoning, approval to put it in as a permanent structure? What happens then? Are we covered? Is that allowed? I mean, it's a different thing than just dumping it on the ground, and maybe it's okay, but it becomes permanent.
It's gonna be my she shed and I'm gonna dress it up and I'm gonna put flowers around it and,
I'm gonna maintain it, yeah.
yeah.
For every pretty she shed,
Not
there's
to be
100,
prohibited.
there's 100
I guess-
she sheds out there for every she shed.
you get
I don't have a
setback
good
and
answer
site
for that.
coverage.
I guess the other thing is someone could build a shed. That is made out of whatever corrugated metal or whatever the.
Yeah.
And then they're subjected to the
instead
building,
of wood shingles.
but then they're subjected to the state building
Right,
code.
but I mean, you
which
could have the same aesthetic.
We can't, yeah, we're not trying to eliminate.
That's the difference, is right, the aesthetic. So if they're going to the trouble of actually
Hiring an
building it
architect.
properly, insulating it, making sure it's not leaching and all that kind of stuff. That does kind of put them in a different category. Maybe that's not as, it's certainly not as bad as.
That's not gonna be, that's not gonna be a cheap solution.
No, it's not,
But,
but
no, like I
if they
said,
really want to do
Well,
it.
it's the same thing, someone who wanted to use one of these shipping containers to repurpose to actually build a house out
Right.
of them, which people do, and then they're making it into a structure and they're meeting building code.
All the codes, yeah,
Cutting
yeah.
out windows and egress and
Right.
making it.
and we're not against that. We're
Yeah.
not saying they can't be used in any
And that's-
capacity in the town.
That's what I'm thinking, and so this doesn't prevent that, if they want to go to that extent. Which I think is what was the discussion yesterday, is if you put it in and properly.
I
Properly,
suppose that is a possibility
Yeah.
that may be appropriate.
I doubt someone would do it, but if they really want to, that's what I've seen in areas where they have Airbnbs and they've created
So,
these things.
so to
that
get to the,
Amy stayed
you
in.
know, Amy showed you a lot of interesting pictures. When we get to the prohibition side, is there any appetite for Commer to say something like, if, a planning board would consider, review containers as part of a permanent structure with foundations, it would go to a special permit or something. I mean, is there some sort of outline there that says, if someone, nobody's gonna do this, it doesn't make any financial sense to do this, but if someone really wants to do it, should we put a carve out that says, if,
In the prohibited section, we're not prohibiting them for use for habitable structures.
Can you show the prohibited language again?
We may not need the carve out, but if this is the case, we could make the point if it comes down to it.
The purpose of storing household goods, materials, equipment, or warehousing.
is prohibited, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Six.
For storage
Right.
containers, which are defined as portable, and if you put it on a foundation, maybe it's not portable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that may be a way that if someone really wanted to do it,
Yeah,
that's maybe an acceptable workaround. They're putting it on a foundation, they're converting it from a container that's just plopped on the ground to a structure that is. If they're doing that, then they're gonna start to have to meet the building code.
right, and conservation.
Right.
And how?
Yep, and health, yeah.
So even if this didn't go through, this prohibited use, my understanding is Justin, when he looked at this, and then subsequently Basil, when he's been asked about this, has said, how would you deal with this? And it would be, well, I'd consider it, similar to a shed, and it would be site coverage and setbacks. So, I mean, I think under any scenario, we probably still get site coverage and setbacks, if that's how Basil is gonna continue to enforce it.
So I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading. Is there an allowable use for residential, that's not the word. If someone wanted to build an ADU or a home using a shipping container and wanted to go through the building permit process to do that,
It is not disallowed in the way that this is written.
okay.
And I would, again, I'm not opposed to that. If somebody comes up with a design and they go to planning and they say, oh, I'm getting 4 shipping containers and I'm going to configure them to look like this. Nobody might like the look of it, but that's not what we're,
And so that's a good point. That's not what this, I didn't-
Because it was saying
just for
the
storage. et cetera,
definition,
et cetera.
the definition
Yeah,
is used
okay,
for
got it.
storing goods.
Thank you.
You can
That's-
still build a house out of shipping containers
Or an ADU.
Which would be that.
if you are doing it to meet all the applicable building code and health code regulations.
Right.
You'd be able to do that even with this.
And that could diffuse the question in there. Maybe they're thinking ADUs.
No, I don't.
No,
But it's just to answer your question, so while we don't have it specifically as a listed allowance, because that would
Right.
fall under the building code.
Yes,
We have
yes.
not disallowed it
Yes,
as
thank you.
material to be used
That's
for
helpful.
habitable space.
Okay, and likewise, if someone wanted to treat it, my example, the she shed, someone wanted to put one in and use it as a she shed or artwork or something, and they treat it as a shed and they get a building permit and they go through all that, we're not disallowing that.
Well,
I think we have,
she shed is not a category. It's a shed.
Yeah.
Or it's not.
I guess when people are doing that, we treat that as an accessory structure.
Yes, yes, and go through the same
Right, so if they're not using it to store
store temporary.
materials.
Yes. Yeah, I
And for
got it.
the express purpose of having it as a storage
So it
shed,
was an art studio.
yeah,
or just whatever, it's a guest house, I mean, it's a hangout space, it's whatever, it's not used specifically for storing materials.
Although yeah, I mean, is this the appropriate time to talk about these environmental impacts? Because quite frankly, if these are real, these raise serious questions about whether these should be used. I forwarded this to, Tom did some research last night about the environmental impacts. Yes. You know,
Well, I think when you start to get into something that's gonna be used for something more than storage, and now it's falling under building code, it's gonna get a permit, the health department's gonna see that. So you're gonna start to get into questions about ventilation, egress. Is this safe for human habitation? I don't know that health or conservation have specific rules.
well, they'll have all those rules, but I guess this reused, I mean, someone wants to put a brand new metal container up. It's
That's what I'm
probably a
saying. I don't-
different,
I
it's
don't know
a
that
different
they-
scenario than using a reused container. That was
How it was,
how it was previously, depending upon how it was
how it
previously
was built.
and how it was built.
I mean, some of that, like treatment of the, building these for maritime environment and protecting it, whatever the arsenic or stuff is done on the wood floor, that may come with it anyway, I don't know. Like, even if it's not used, that's how it was built.
Okay. I would love to share this, but I would love to have it sourced that this is not,
That's the thing, that's why, I was careful not to.
you didn't want to source it, or,
Well, I did have some sources on there, yes, I do have.
but the article you had, was it from? Who,
It would take a little bit longer to do the sourcing,
okay,
but I went through and I found information. And one of them I think is listed as a national, student health.
yep,
Did have some stuff, but I didn't go follow the links yet. That would take extra time, which I could do.
I think that's a helpful thing to
I
have.
think if you had sources, if we were to share this with the board.
And maybe not as part of the packet at noon today, but something that,
Can we send them supplemental information after 12 o'clock today?
I mean, Tom as a resident can send it over.
It's not a hard cutoff at noon, I'm just. To get it done today.
Yes.
If we can include that somehow, that'd be good. That sort of overrides some personal or experiences some of them may have had.
If you think it's useful, I can do that.
Yeah, even if some of these, even just that there was a reference, a link or
okay,
something,
okay,
that
yeah,
would be
yeah.
enormously
And I would
helpful.
share it even without it. I mean, a lot of the stuff is pretty obvious when you read it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, this is swishable, who knows what chemicals were in them.
Yeah, I think it's in the form it's in, it's suitable for just.
And I'll just say,
But not.
to tie it back to town, and to tie it back to the planning board. Planning board spent almost a year fighting Willie's on putting storage containers where they were not visible from the street. And I agree I didn't want to see storage containers put there either. But we fought for a year with Willie's on doing this. And the big key was, well, we don't know what's going to be stored in them. There could be things that that could be dangerous there.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, 18 months later, we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna let them go anywhere in town. So if they were not good for Willie's, why are they good for every residential house in a residential neighborhood?
What I would recommend just for kind of protocol is this group can decide to authorize Mary to send this stuff to the select board, and then you can send it to Erica in the select board's office. At any point, she'll get it in the packet if there's time, or she can send them, email it to them.
Which you said by noon tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Well, we should have we have to go through a few more. Is this the big issue here? Is there anything else? Cause I know Kevin's getting up to go and I know we got a couple
That's-
others. That's the big one there.
Yeah, that's the only one.
So I'm thinking that. And I don't know if this is today, so I'm gonna just say this and then we can say how it gets done. Going back, we heard from, we've had a couple meetings, you know, with strategic planning, finance, and now the planning board. We've heard feedback, we know the sensitivities of the select board, and then I'm thinking we have to come back. And I'm thinking, is this a cover memo that says we're providing you new warrants? We've broken up prohibited uses into 3 spots. We've made these editorial changes based on Carolyn. And then, you know, I want to bring one other issue up with, and then maybe, you know, respectfully, you know, we've relooked at the container issue, we've heard the facts, but we still feel the following, and here's some of the research. So do you anticipate that that's kind of what we would do? And now we're
Yeah,
gonna be able to get a memo like that together in any,
Right. And if you,
Particular time.
and if you can't corroborate each one of these to a news story or something,
Yeah.
just say, here are the topics that we've discussed. So this has come up at least 3 times in our meetings. Or, you know, there's almost no issue we've talked about more than this.
yeah,
And you could give this email and I'd add to it the safety issue of, you know, there's been reports of people being locked inside
Yeah.
them or, you know, maybe accidentally. God forbid if you're in
Yeah.
Phoenix and you go,
The refrigerator in the backyard. Without a lock.
That's a good point there.
mhm,
but that's all I can afford.
okay,
I'll reword that. I think we have to be careful because, for instance, I can't say that the amount of the change
No,
is
the
how much has been that. I think it's just.
the anti-fouling paint that I just read here is a
Yeah.
huge one.
Yeah,
That's,
I think so. I
that would make me ban them in town completely, never mind just residential places.
I think perhaps the way to say it is, it raises unanswered concerns,
yeah,
right, that would need to be further investigated.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that. Don't say.
No,
further
don't say that.
investigate. Just say these are the topics that we've discussed in the meeting, including these.
Oh, okay.
Don't give them an off ramp because then they say, okay, well, when you do that research, come back in 2 years.
What you need to do is throw enough information at them to create this major seed of doubt. That
Well-
would be stupid if you went. Think,
Yeah, we have an opportunity
you
here.
know, 5 years from now, it turns out to be a
Okay.
herring making only review.
so we're gonna. We can talk after the meeting about getting a presentation. Let's get through we've got a few more. Did we do setbacks yet?
Yeah, it was just adding a site triangle.
The one thing I want to add about setbacks is this was a conversation that I did, that Amy and Jamie raised this issue, and I'm just putting it out there. The setbacks for the RVs. They're raising an issue saying, listen, someone can have a driveway and put 4 or 5 SUVs and be parked right out on the property line. You've got people who, especially with company, you've got driveways that are chock full of vehicles and there's no regulation. And are we overreaching by saying someone with the RV has to go back?
No,
12 feet?
because we talked about that in the meeting and we removed that. There is no setback from an RV from the street.
We didn't remove it yet on the chart. So can we remove that on the chart?
It is right there.
Oh, it is.
Minimum setback from the street.
Yeah.
I thought it said NA on the.
You did in
Okay.
one version, but this is the version.
Okay,
from the
okay, so
list
this is-
right back
okay.
out here.
So we're, okay,
And the other issue, of course, is the height in terms of the sideline.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's what we said, when we talked about that issue, we said, you know what, people have lots of trailers in town. And if the trailer was less than 6 feet, like it's an empty boat trailer or it's a landscape trailer and it's only 6 feet, I think I stood up last time I mentioned this. Then, yeah, if that goes close, if that doesn't have the setback, then that's not a big problem. But when you have a mobile home, these things are 12 feet tall
I know.
and it's right on your border.
Okay, so we took that setback
Right,
for the
right.
driveway back.
You
Oh,
know, I-
Okay.
what am I doing?
so we
Yes,
can, in the summer, we can just say, we updated the thing. Okay, let's go a few more, so we can,
We might as well give Amy and,
Inclusionary Zoning.
we did prohibited. We didn't do inclusionary yet, or,
They didn't really have anything on sign code.
Yeah, sign code was. Yeah, just rewording the warrant for clarity, was no change.
no change, okay.
Have we heard yet from the chamber about the sign code?
No, and
We
they
sent it to
circulated
Jen.
everything.
It's been sent and they distributed it to their mailing
Members,
list and
yeah.
membership. And I haven't heard anything back from well, I did have a meeting with the owner of Willie's Gym. She expressed some concern about prohibiting them. She believes that those flags did help her business when she had them out there last summer. That was her feedback.
And we only had one person at the public hearing yesterday, so no one came forth. That to the point, no one came forth to object.
That won't stop coming to town.
No.
Fortunately. And we're allowing. Is it 0 or 1,
Prohibiting feather flags.
the feather?
Feather.
Feather are prohibited and the
flag
inflatable,
being
Yeah.
Inflatable.
yeah, okay.
All right, into, in defense of the, chamber. I would say when you're the only one, when there's only 1 or 2 people with these flags on Route 6, that, yeah, it is going to attract attention to your business.
Yeah.
But we're trying to look into the future, and if there's 7 or 8 people, like now you're driving down to New Jersey, and
That's a good
there's
point.
1 or 4 on every corner, then it just becomes visual noise.
Yeah.
And we're trying to stay away from
Yeah.
that, so.
That's great. That's a great rationale.
Well, actually, the feedback I've heard over the last week is that the most compelling argument for this is the safety along Route 6. They said it just having fluttering
Distract.
things, distractible things is, I got that from a few folks. Okay, so,
Gary was worried about that as it related to the farmer's market. They use feather flags to advertise the farmer's market.
Those are temporary, non-commercial. Those are fall under non-commercial flags for a temporary event. I think those would be allowed. Plus, it's on a municipal property, so the town can allow that if they want.
If that might be a good argument with the businesses.
With the businesses,
Like,
that probably
yeah,
wouldn't go.
town regulates us, but
Placing some of those for some folks with a banner.
Yeah.
Instead, or.
Or a chalkboard.
A quick question on storage containers again, when it comes to commercial space. Is there a limit to how many, like if I have a restaurant, I have 1 out back versus 4?
I think we said 1 in here, Paul, didn't we?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Containers under the home occupations.
Limit
No,
of
you're,
one.
you're talking.
No,
about
commercial
Commercial.
properties.
We haven't done commercial properties.
So like the GFM site there in Wellfleet. I think they have at least 4 of them there, which might be fine, but I don't know if we ever discussed just how many.
No, we
Like if somebody on Route 6 decided to put in 12 of them. Because they don't want to build something, but then they're on a commercial space. We have any way to say, you know what, you should have built a warehouse, not put in 12 of these.
Well, how did we deal with Willie's Gym when she wanted,
If those were being built. That was-
those are being built,
Those are,
storage?
that's specifically, that use isn't allowed now. If someone came in from scratch and did that.
Right, yeah, I was just saying, let's say I have a legitimate business, I've got a dump truck, and instead of building my construction business, instead of building a proper warehouse, I decided to put in 12 of these things. And I run my entire business off 12, 14, 16 of these, and every time I need, I add 2 more.
Would it be driven by where it's located? Like you could do that at Holmes Road, but you can't do that in a residential?
Well, I was getting to the commercial side, because I could see the restaurants have 1. Not most, a lot of restaurants will have 1, and you could say, okay, I see that, you've got your outside eating area and you've got your storage stuff. But what keeps them from putting in 4 or 5?
I don't know, I have to look through the commercial, I'm not sure that it does stop that, I have to look through that section, but
Except on Holmes Road, which is the trade park. I think that would be fine. Somebody could say, oh, this is easier for me. Sometimes I need 5. Next year I might only need 2. But
I mean, I guess if it's something that is coming for plan review, it would be.
but would it though? Like if the brick house, instead of having, I don't know if they have, if a particular restaurant has 1, and then next year we drive by and they have 6.
So. they would affect your site coverage. So if you start to add them. And you would trigger some level of review if you start adding this.
Plus, yes,
And it
setbacks.
wouldn't be that they would be necessarily prohibited, but it would be. Where are they going,
Regulated.
how are you, where are they, how are you screening them, all that kind of stuff.
And I assume there'd be annual health inspections, right?
Of what? No,
If it's a restaurant, don't restaurants get
If
inspected?
they're storing food in them.
well, yeah, I mean, that's a different, again, it depends on what, if they're converting them into a walk-in. An exterior walk-in or whatever, that's a whole, that's,
But that's a health inspection.
but that's a whole other. Type of structure at that point there.
Hmm.
It's too late to tweak things now. I would put like a limit or two outside of.
I wonder whether,
That's true.
I wonder whether the Board of Health. This might be a regulatory thing if. The health issues are,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it may not, I mean, we're trying to solve this by zoning, but it may be something that. The health board needs to really think about that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about other regulations that may
Yeah.
grow to fall under,
Other,
environmental protection regulations or. For commercial spaces.
Right, we're all on the shared board, we're all on the same aquifer.
yeah,
Mhm.
so, okay. So what else do we need to go through?
This is the inclusionary.
Okay, the inclusion.
Alright, so sorry, I can't open the one I had working draft I had in my computer upstairs, so some of my notes aren't here, but. So the first thing, town council had suggested language. About relative to subdivisions. Before we get to that, Jack and I noticed that this is the applicability section. Subdivisions isn't listed in the applicability, so it's just the constructing, converting, all that. So I think it makes sense to add that in, so this would apply to just if you're just doing a subdivision,
Mm-hmm,
creating lots.
mm-hmm.
So we'd add that in, and then you get to number 2. Which talks,
Before you leave number one.
Yeah.
It's under a single application. And so if they were trying to avoid. Inclusionary, they could do an application in succeeding sequentially. Do one for 4, do one for 4, do one for 4.
That's the segmentation
Segmentation.
that comes next.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Shall not set, yeah,
yeah, so number 2 prevents that and tries.
Got it.
The question that was raised by town council was,
They build 4 and sell 6.
yeah, so she suggested some language to insert, which is basically if
could you read that, Paul, because it's hard to see.
so it would read that developments shall not be segmented. Segmentation shall be dividing the development into whether new construction, blah, 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 subdivision of land into multiple phases that cumulatively results in a net increase of 5 or more lots or dwelling units above the number originally permitted, existing 36 months earlier on any parcel or set of contiguous parcels held in common ownership.
So this is only good for 36 months? I live in a subdivision that was built 32 years ago, and the last 2 properties are being built as we speak.
Can you say in English what we're trying to accomplish?
No, I can't.
I can, someone gets permission for a subdivision, And if they're going to come and build 20, 30 houses, where the IZ laws would kick in.
Right.
But if they only build 4, and then they've got the approvals, but now they sit on it, and every couple of years they sell 2 or 3 lots, like
Right.
what Mary was mentioning. The IZ laws, how do they apply? Because like when I buy that 5th lot, it's not, as a single homeowner, now I'm
Right, I
responsible.
understand that.
Yes, so I just think it's a loophole. I don't know how we would fix it, or if there's just so much economics that would change with the housing market and the economy. That is a builder really going to go do this on purpose? It might happen this way, but no developer is going to say, I'm gonna go down this path and wait 3 years. Because I've got all this land, and who knows what's gonna happen in the economy. Well,
So one of the scenarios we talked through was, imagine, so I'm a developer, I've just bought a 10-acre parcel. I'm gonna subdivide it into 10 1-acre lots. I have a plan. I've been approved for my plan. I'm gonna build 10 houses. 2 of them are gonna be affordable. We've got the plan. You get the first 3 done, I go bankrupt. I'm out of business. And so it sits. And it's tied up in land court, and it's, these 3 years pass by where nothing is happening. Not because I'm intentionally sitting on it, which is that
yeah, just the
avoiding
economic reason,
compliance,
right?
but just. Or I die or whatever, and 3 years lapses. And so the next person buys the remaining 7 acres. What we're talking about, I think, with this is if it's inside that 3-year gap, those 7 acres, those 7 lots are still part of the IZ plan. You're still beholden to the plan
Yeah.
that the failed developer before left.
I agree.
If it's been sitting and no work has been done for 3 years, and you've now just bought a 7-acre, 7 lots, independent of the original 3. Those exist, those are there, those are done. Now in that numerical scheme, you're still building an inclusionary unit because now you're a 7-lot developer, not 10.
And they only building 1.5.
Right. But I mean, I do think that there's some sense, again, it might take years. I don't know how the economics work if 10, a property that was subdivided 10 years ago and I'm coming in as a new developer taking over a failed project and I'm still beholden to an agreement from 10 years ago.
Well, you're saying it's deed restricted. I mean, it's kind of like a deed restriction,
Mm-hmm.
which is no different than if you build an affordable housing development
Right.
and you sell it,
Could-
you buy it with
Which
those
could
deed
mean that
restrictions.
original developer had to sign the deed restriction
Yeah.
for their 2 required lots.
Yeah.
So you could say, okay,
Before anything else ever got started.
yeah, so you'd say, okay, there's 7 lots that are undeveloped. Like 2 of those 7 have deed restrictions, and then the person, at least then the person buying it
Notice.
10 years from now. Would have to qualify, and they would know what they're buying as
Yeah.
opposed to.
Don't we say something about you can't get your occupancy permit until you've done the deed restriction?
Mhm.
So,
There's also
And-
language about the timing, so the affordables can't be the last, and you have to be. What is it? They have to be within the first 4 permits.
Did we put the deed restriction on the house or on the lot in the subdivision?
I think they would have to go on the lot because that's the only thing that's existing at the time.
Well, that's why we wanted in that first paragraph of applicability. Subdivision was not included.
Right.
So if we add subdivision, then it's not just about the structures once built, it's actually the land.
Can I just ask on the 36 months, because for a normal project, you start getting your permits and you start constructing, with supply chain and the whole world we're living in, to even build something in 36 months. I mean, the 2 houses being built next door to me, they're just doing foundation work now because between costs and the environment, and their permit was issued 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So I'm just,
It's somewhat arbitrary.
I'm just
She put
saying-
that in there, she just put in a time constraint for.
I mean, minimally 5 years, it feels like to me, but 36 months feels like that becomes a loophole because it's gonna take most people close to 36 months to even get the first phase done, you know?
Where it to good house, so.
But I think what you're saying is they have to have already designated certain lots as deed restricted,
Yeah,
right? So right at
just
the
a little-
beginning, that'll already be locked in.
Yeah.
I agree with Mary to put it to 60 months, that's what you're.
Yeah, 60
saying,
months.
Because I do think 36 months, in a developer's world, I'd be like, all right, I'm building these, I'm a year and a half in before I break ground. And now I've built 4 houses, I'm like, you know what, I just go to Hawaii for to slow down for a while, that saves me a lot of money.
So-
So anything for 6 months and just wait out the 36 month window.
So you're thinking if in that case of 10,
It
they
was-
subdivided 10, they're saying, I'm only gonna develop 4 right now.
Yeah, then go to
And the
Hawaii.
rest will be later.
Because I only have to wait
10
another
years
year.
later.
Well, even 1 year later, because it's only, I'm only waiting you out 36 months for approval, as opposed to 60 months, which is, feels.
Yeah.
More significant.
We fine with 60
Okay.
months then? Okay. Okay, so, okay, oh, we're good with this, and then we move on, we'll see what else she says.
The rest of these are really just fine tuning some of the language. These are all definitions.
While we're on this section, I just noticed that the design, what we would call, not design, the inclusionary guidelines need to be, Carolyn has suggested that they should be called regulations. We should still go through the process of, the planning board should adopt them. And I'm just referencing that the planning board last night said they were gonna put them on their May 20th agenda. So we need to just think in our own cycle, if we want to do a review of those before and we make a recommendation to the planning board, we just got to figure out a meeting that we review.
That makes sense.
They've got drafts running around with the consultant, but we just haven't done that, so we need to do that.
That was the only major thing.
Okay.
Everything else was just.
So that's just a scheduling thing. So we've got about 35 minutes, but so for Monday night, we'll work on a memo. We gotta just talk about, here's some of the changes, highlighted changes. We're gonna say that back. And then we might go a little deep into one or two issues. Well, we'll mention we'll have the setback issue, the change, that then and then we'll end with the container.
Well,
And
one of the things we haven't today talked about is the issue about vinyl fences that came up.
oh, we've had a lot of subsequent conversations, and I don't want to predict what anyone will say, but there was a greater understanding that our proposal did not prohibit chain link. And that the way the language is, it doesn't even prohibit vinyl in the sense that you could have a picket fence of vinyl, but it's the solid panel. And understanding that helped folks quite a bit.
Okay. And I did research on Home Depot again, and the cost difference between wood and vinyl solid. A panel of picket and a panel of vinyl, it is about 10%.
More.
The vinyl's more,
The vinyl is definitely more.
but only about 10% more. Not like, huge. So if you were doing a 50, I calculated, if you're doing a 50-foot run, which I don't know, 50 feet is longer than you might do, but anyway, the cost difference was $250.
Okay,
So it's not insurmountable.
but it's not a cheaper alternative.
I
That-
thought it was cheaper. But that's why people.
I think people were
Vinyl's more.
putting out that it was cheaper, but actually Jerry Sarasol Googled right at the meeting and he said, I'm looking at Home Depot and it's much more expensive. So
Vinyl's more.
yeah, vinyl's more. So it's,
Luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, sure, it's gonna be much more now because
Jim Badera.
excuse me.
everything's going on with the oil.
All the storms we get, I mean,
Yeah.
we've had winds over 75 miles an hour twice in the past month. And if these things aren't, and where they're located and how solid the ground is, and whether they have stuff in them, whether they'll tumble over.
Our fence fell down.
Sure.
Yeah, there's one on Schoolhouse that's white vinyl right on the road that fell.
Ours is wood.
Did it? Really?
Just panels are.
As another topic for next year, I just sent out an email on the starter home zoning. Have you seen that story that Healy said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that again? Yeah.
There's Healy announced that there's going to be a money available for towns that create a starter home zoning district. I just sent you the email. I just sent everyone the story from the Globe.
Okay.
Okay, all right, that would be great.
Are you on Monday? Does it feel like the select board, like, are you planning on a presentation again? Or is it sort of like you all have the information? It's time to vote. Let us know which ones you still wanna, I guess I'm just wondering about the strategy of going into, here's more detail. Versus what are your actual questions? What do you still need to know before you vote?
Not, I'm not planning on a presentation. I don't think they're gonna want that.
Yeah.
Cause they also doing.
They're doing budget.
They're doing the budget. So
Can they do zoning before the budget?
I think they are planning to do that.
Oh, really?
I think,
It's not where the agenda
Oh,
reads,
oh,
but they might.
they can take it out of order if they want to.
I think it would be prudent for us to at least acknowledge the pushback that we've got last week and to say, here's some additional information regarding that pushback. Not necessarily to re-litigate everything, but just to way to introduce the work that Tom has done.
Well, yeah, we could frame it to say, we heard these concerns. We did more research both on cost as well
I
as.
would say do more research, we just say we want to share you some of this.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
to share with some of the research we've done.
Yeah.
And, you know, my feeling is, I feel like we can stand behind our proposal because, for the reasons,
And the
and,
biggest key is that we're breaking it up, so.
and and honestly, if the select board, a majority votes that something won't be on the warrant, that's their right. I might argue at the meeting, and I think there were at least two select board members just saying, you know, maybe we should just let the town folks decide on this, you know, and I think that might be, for some of the select board, it might be easier to say, you know, yeah, we have a debate. Is this overreach or is this protection? Maybe we would put it to the town. I don't know. That would be, at a minimum, something I would advocate.
And so, but the process at the select board meeting will be, here are the few things that we've changed in response to comments and information from Carolyn Murray. And then you all have to get through and vote each warrant article one by one. I think we should talk as little as possible.
Right, you said two things. Here's what we've changed. We broke it up into separate items, warrant items. And we want to share with you some of the research and topics that we discussed at the 4
I
different
wouldn't do
times.
that.
What's that?
I wouldn't do that.
No, I think that's,
Leslie,
I think that's in the packet that Tom, you know, the,
we can send that out and they have it, but
oh, you wouldn't review it like, okay.
I think they want to hear as little as possible. At this point, they're gonna have, if the agenda goes the way the agenda's going, they're going through the entire budget first. They're gonna be tired and overwhelmed. I would be.
I think though what they're reacting to, and yeah, there's a danger of bringing it up if they've already reconciled it in their minds, is that the discussion in the report, which is very good, concentrates more on the visual aspect. And I think what they were reacting to is deal with it. It's cheaper. Some people need it because, you know, we have people that don't have a lot of money here. They can't afford to build a nice fancy.
Well, to quote
Move
Amy,
your camera so you're not
to
seeing.
quote Amy, she said, well, if it bugs you, then look the other way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
And that could
part of
apply,
this-
that could apply to zoning on.
Oh, I know. But there may be an easier way to deal with that particular one, which is, there's additional discussion we had that we didn't bring up.
Right,
And we want
you're right.
to point out the difference
It's
between,
not just aesthetics.
yeah, not just aesthetics, there's other issues.
Yeah.
And it's the casual use of these things. We're allowing businesses to use them that, you know, that need them, right? But residential use where it just gets dumped.
Right.
That's a problem.
And I have a hulking 727
An old railroad car.
ripping the weeds.
Can I bring
You could do a railroad.
They're portable, right? Yeah. So they would be,
Okay.
I
I
would,
know.
I would think maybe a short, you know,
A short-
mention of the research, which includes maybe what we've already sent you, but it's, and to say, it's
beyond
not
aesthetic.
Yeah,
just
but
aesthetic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the thing I like about this, and I want to get it into the public record, is the fact that we are speaking to select board, but a lot of people watch those meetings.
Mhm.
And so I think we need to communicate the level of this and
At the
if this is on the website, then anyone, you know, we could say we provided you additional research on, you know, the environmental impacts, and people then can follow up on that, you know? So,
By the way, speaking of the website, where is this found now, this material? Because a couple days ago, I went on the zoning task force site page and it was there. When I went there this morning, I didn't see it.
No, it's all under the planning board.
I didn't see it on the planning board either.
There's a link for amendments 2026.
Okay, I
And
mean,
it was on the webpage. It might have got bumped off the webpage.
That's what I'm wondering.
But it was
I
on,
think that bumped.
all
I
right,
mean, the homepage. Was on the homepage.
we've gone through all the changes. We've talked, we know we need a summary to go to the board. Tom, you
What I
would,
would recommend-
you're trying to annotate this really quickly,
Yep.
okay?
What I would recommend is, you know, we could put together the memo. I think the memo should come from
The task force.
the task force. We can put together the summary of all the nuts and bolts changes, but
Yeah,
then whatever
yeah.
language you want to put in, discussing that and
Okay.
in the attachment, and then
Okay,
can.
okay.
I-
And we-
And we'll
we can-
give everybody, we'll give the board the latest.
Okay.
And I do see the links now. I think the problem was some of the Wi-Fi last night was getting really wide.
So you could,
So I
You
see
can
it
just-
now, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was something, that's why the Zoom went down, the whole Wi-Fi, something's messed up.
Yeah,
just
so we're good.
any little,
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
just the link, it would, we don't have to do,
You're gonna add personal safety to that, like kids talking with other, that's it, but it'll be at the same document.
Okay.
okay, terrific. Thank you. Anything else you have for us? Any other business? We're at,
No, other than just snap your yards.
Okay.
It's a typo.
do I, if I don't hear any other business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I just have one thing
Yep.
that isn't leaving my mind, so I might as well say it. On the changes to the FAR, I just keep coming back to, but if I were a person coming before the planning board, one of the things I like, I would think, is the reduction in bureaucracy and paperwork, especially for smaller projects. So I'm just thinking about, again, like, consider moving that up so that that's the
Yep.
house
Mhm.
that we're in.
Yeah,
As part of reducing the regulatory burden on people.
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
And
I think all of these suggestions are good and they're helpful, they'll be helpful for town meeting too. Have questions, just be good to be able to succinctly summarize these in 2 or 3 points. This is what it all boils down to for all of these articles. So that's why
Okay.
having the sawtooth thing, having something that's a 1-pager, just. Like, it's worth working on between now and town meetings.
Are you gonna post your slides? Cause I thought those were excellent.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
just to remind people, we put April 7th on the agenda. That was going to be the meeting that we look at the 3 zoning amendments that, the 3 zoning topics that we didn't get to. And before I quote a summer break, we wanted to sort of talk about them and think through what kind of analysis or research we'll be looking for, whether we need technical assistance, et cetera, so that staff would then have some time through several months to sort of get us together. So that's what we originally talked about. Now we also have guidelines that the planning board is going to take up on the 20th of May. So we can still hold the April 7th and do next year, but we probably need to get one more meeting on the books.
or should we combine those into one meeting and just do it when we're ready to talk about the guidelines?
Okay. We could start with the guidelines and then go to the next one. We are scheduled, and this was a issue for someone. We're scheduled from 9 to 11 on that date. It would change,
The ninth.
April 7th, yeah, we went around this
Yeah.
room and someone had a doctor's appointment or something, I don't know.
About me.
I have a doctor's appointment at noon.
Okay, So okay. Just so that everybody knows, let's hold that date. We might have to do guidelines first and
So April 7th at
9.
9.
to 11.
Well, we have pretty good drafts on those guidelines. So
Yeah.
If you
we
want,
can get
yeah,
out ahead of
Yeah,
time, so
yeah.
it doesn't, you don't have to be looking at them the first time.
yeah, we can, when we post the agenda, why don't we circulate those guidelines? So maybe we can only take 20 minutes or so
Yeah.
for the guidelines, and then we can go to the next year's work. Okay, great. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jackie and Tom.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.